You've been fooled. They told you it was okay to waste your life energy several times a week, that it was healthy, that it relieved stress. But no one told you the other side of the story, the side that disciplined men have discovered by silencing their urges and immersing themselves in semen retention. And the most surprising thing, the effects appear in the first week. But if you have the courage to continue for 180 days, you will become unrecognizable, even to yourself. You know what's shocking? It's not what retention promises, but what it delivers. In 7 days, you can already feel the difference in your body, mind and eyes. Something awakens. Your energy changes. Your presence begins to weigh. And this without taking any supplements, without doing any magic. Now, imagine what happens when this becomes a lifestyle. When you go months without giving in to the cycle of self-sabotage. What was once a habit becomes power. Few have access to this type of information. Even fewer have the courage to test it. Because living in retention means swimming against the current of a dopaminergic society. It means breaking free from the addiction to masturbation, pornography, and casual sex. It means building a fortress within yourself. But those who have already reached 180 days know, there is another level of masculinity that is only accessible to those who decide not to waste their essence for anything. In this video, you'll learn how semen retention transforms a man in 2 stages, the first at 7 days, the second at 180. And why this journey isn't just about controlling desire, but about becoming the kind of man who controls his own life. And the most curious thing, most people only understand this after they've already spent years being a slave to themselves. You're about to find out what no one told you. And once you find out, you won't want to go back. It's amazing how just 7 days of semen retention can cause changes that many people can't even imagine. In this short period, men begin to feel that something is being reorganized within them. It's not just physical energy, it's a sense of presence that returns. Their posture changes slightly, as if their body is remembering its own value. Their gaze begins to firm up. And this isn't just esoteric talk. Neurochemistry responds quickly when the habit of constant release is interrupted. At this early stage, the mind begins to shift out of autopilot mode. Thoughts that used to race begin to slow down. Simple tasks, like tidying your room or starting a conversation, become more pleasurable. This is because the brain begins to regulate dopamine levels, shifting away from the forced pornography high and back toward the natural sensitivity of life. It's like turning off an alarm that's been ringing non-stop for years. A practical example. A man who decides to do 7 days of semen retention reports that, upon waking up on the 7th day, he feels like walking in the sun, listening to instrumental music, even taking a cold shower seems to have more purpose. He doesn't just feel more energy, he feels direction. Semen retention, at this point, triggers the instinct for self-care that was dormant. And when the body feels that it is being respected, it responds. Another noticeable change is the way he behaves in public. There is a subtle but noticeable magnetism. His communication improves, his smile becomes more sincere and his voice takes on a different weight. It is as if he is beginning to remember who he is, effortlessly, just by stopping wasting his vital energy. These first 7 days already show that semen retention is not a theory. It is biology applied to life itself. And the most interesting thing is that, even though it's just the beginning, it's enough to generate internal doubts. If 7 days already cause this, what if I continue for another week? What if I go up to 30 days? Or 100? This is where the game starts to get really interesting. Reaching 180 days of semen retention is like crossing a silent portal. No fireworks, but a profound internal transformation. The man who reaches this point is no longer trying to control himself. He has become the control itself. Life energy is no longer something he tries to preserve. It is something he radiates naturally. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence already communicates leadership, respect, and stability. Your voice changes. It's not just a change in tone, it's a change in intention. Your words come out with more weight, more clarity, and less haste. This happens because your nervous system is more balanced, and your brain has adjusted to the new hormonal background. Your testosterone levels are at optimal levels, and this translates into solid self-confidence, the kind that doesn't need approval. It's the kind of confidence that can't be sold or taught, it has to be earned. The gaze is also no longer the same. It does not look away, does not run away, does not beg for validation. It is a gaze that penetrates masks, that observes before reacting, that sees the social game clearly. Semen retention, after 6 months, changes the way a man moves, expresses himself and decides. Everything becomes more calculated, but at the same time more natural. It is the return of primitive instinct, now refined by consciousness. In practice, this man begins to stand out in environments where he previously went unnoticed. At work, his ideas gain weight. In social circles, he is heard before being interrupted. In relationships, he attracts people through serenity, not performance. Retention, at this point, has already shaped his identity. It is no longer about resisting a desire, it is about incorporating a new pattern of existence. And it's interesting to realize that, when you reach these 180 days, a new type of challenge arises. One that doesn't involve carnal desire, but rather the expansion of your own mission in the world. Because when you stop being a slave to your own body, you begin to realize that the real battlefield is another. In the first week of semen retention, something powerful happens behind the scenes. Your brain starts to reorganize its connections. That's not an exaggeration, it's pure neuroscience. Dopamine pathways that were once overwhelmed by artificial stimuli like porn and social media start to get pruned. This process is called neural pruning, and it's like cleaning up your mind's operating system. Less noise, more clarity. It's as if the brain, upon realizing that it is no longer receiving that avalanche of immediate pleasure, begins to recalibrate its sensors. Focus returns. Boredom disappears. Small everyday things start to have a new flavor, like talking while looking someone in the eye, or simply taking a deep breath before making a decision. The mind leaves the state of compulsive consumption and enters observation mode. Consciousness awakens. A practical example is the following. Instead of compulsively opening his cell phone when he wakes up, the man in retention begins to choose what he will do with his time. He can decide to meditate for 5 minutes, write down 3 ideas for the day, or even read a book like The Power of Now We're Smarter Than the Devil. The difference is that now he has the mental energy to support those choices. He feels in control. And it's not just about mental clarity. The limbic system, responsible for emotions, also rebalances itself. This means that the man stops reacting like a puppet to his own emotions. Instead of exploding over small things, he learns to breathe before responding. Semen retention creates this margin between stimulus and reaction. And within this margin, freedom resides. But the most fascinating thing about this phase is realizing that, even with all this clarity, there is still something deeper coming into alignment, a kind of intelligence that begins to guide behavior with more intention. And that is when we enter a new dimension of the mind. After a few weeks of semen retention, what was once just a feeling becomes a mental state, clarity. Thoughts stop being like loose leaves in the wind and start to align like pieces of a puzzle. There is an internal harmony that eliminates the need to chase after everything at the same time. Focus intensifies. Decisions become more discerning. The mind becomes a cleaner place. Over time, the reactive patterns that controlled our behavior begin to disappear. It's as if our brain relearns how to filter out what really matters. This mental stability doesn't come with forced effort, it comes naturally. And this translates into practical life in many ways. You start listening more and talking less, you notice details that previously went unnoticed, and you start thinking strategically, not impulsively. A good example of this is at work or school. Before, any distraction, like a notification, would distract you. Now, you can stay focused even in the face of chaos. People who are in retention can plan their day better, communicate more calmly, and even argue more effectively. If they lead a team, they become a more focused leader. If they are starting a project, they become more consistent. Clarity is power, and it starts with the silence of the mind. This alignment also strengthens the connection between reason and emotion. The heart no longer fights with the head. They talk to each other. When this happens, something rare emerges these days: internal coherence. And those who live coherently convey authority, even without meaning to. This is the kind of man who doesn't need to shout to be heard. He speaks once, and everyone pays attention. The power of semen retention reflects exactly this: balance between feeling and deciding. But this clarity has a powerful side effect. It begins to reveal that the real battle is not in controlling energy, but in how that energy will be used. And that is where identity begins to take shape. In the early days of semen retention, discipline is still fragile. It relies on willpower, on the enthusiasm of the beginning. It's like pushing a stalled car. It takes energy. But over time, what was once effort becomes rhythm. And after a few months, it's no longer about discipline, it's about identity. The man is no longer practicing retention. He has become someone who lives in that state. It's part of who he is. This process is invisible, but transformative. What used to require resistance becomes a natural choice. Temptations lose their power because the mind no longer feeds them. A real example: that guy who used to be unable to go 2 days without giving in to binges, now scrolls through Instagram, sees what used to catch his attention, and simply ignores it. Not because he tries, but because he knows what's at stake. He's a different man. When retention becomes identity, decisions gain a new basis, principles. Actions cease to be reactive and begin to be guided by an internal code. This affects everything, from what he consumes, who he associates with, to where he puts his energy. He begins to choose more elevated environments, move away from shallow conversations, and seek more nourishing content. Books, audiobooks, mentors. Everything he consumes now builds him. A solid identity also changes the way he deals with difficulties. Instead of running away, he faces them. Instead of complaining, he adjusts his route. This is because a man in semen retention knows that his energy cannot be wasted on whining. He knows he has a mission. And this mission requires focus, presence, and consistency. Semen retention, at this stage, has become the foundation of his personality. It is part of his energetic DNA. And when this new identity takes hold, a new universe begins to open up. Because if he has mastered himself, he is ready to master larger areas of life. Now that you understand how semen retention can transform your mind, your body, and even your identity, the question is simple. Will you continue living as before, or will you use this knowledge to build a new version of yourself? Because the man who masters himself does not need to master anyone else. He inspires by example, not by imposition. What's stopping you from starting now? Fear, doubt, or the false idea that you can't do it? The truth is that you already have everything you need. You just need to decide. And that decision isn't made tomorrow, or when everything is perfect. It's made now, while the fire of consciousness is still burning. This is where change begins, in the silent action of a man who chooses to grow. How many days are you going to wait to realize that you are wasting the best of yourself? How much longer are you going to give up your focus, your energy, and your virility for seconds of pleasure? Semen retention is not about repressing. It is about transmuting. It is about transforming sexual energy into clarity, direction, purpose, and personal power. It is about being your own boss. So tell me, have you tried it yet? Have you done the 7-day challenge? Have you dared to aim for 180? Comment here about your experience, or if this video awakened something new in you. I want to know how you see all this. Your interaction here helps other men to wake up too, and together, we can break the cycle of mediocrity. Did you like the content? Then leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Because this is just the beginning. Here, we talk about energy, discipline, masculine power, and true transformation. And the next video could be exactly what will push you to a new level.